Welcome everyone. Today we have a special guest. Part of our theme of our show is the house that Ross built is to bring on people that have had impact on my life, influenced me good, allowed me to get to where I'm at today, even though I'm still striving to do more. And this I would say young lady that's on the line here. She has been doing this for many years for me. It's my Aunt Reba. I'm not going to share her age. I'm going to let her do that if she wants to do that. But she's had a wealth of knowledge, and what better time to bring her on to kind of get things kicked off, to show you where I come from, where my background is. And without further ado, I'm gonna let her speak a little bit about herself. This is my Aunt Reba. She comes from Delaware, or she's in Delaware, been in Delaware pretty much her whole life. Aunt Reba, how you doing today?
I'm doing fine. Can you hear me? I'm still muted.
Yep, you're good. You're good.
I'm good. Okay. Um, well, it's a little bit warm up here, but not quite as hot as it is down in Texas. But it's good to see all of you, or see you anyway. I haven't seen the other young man. But I don't mind you. I'm talking about my age. I'm blessed by the best to be working on 98 in a couple of months. So October 26th, I'll be 98. So I'm blessed. Native Delawarean.
Yeah, 98. So you're gonna hear so on our podcast, Aunt Reba, we talk about, our community, building businesses, investing, keeping our wealth inside the community. And today, I want you to mostly share about the struggles that you had to go through, because now those are all that we have struggles. It wasn't as many struggles as you guys had, and you guys kind of laid the path for us to be able to do the things we do. So I want you to share that a little bit about that with us.
Well, of course, you know that if I'm as old as I just told you I am, I have really experienced a lot of segregation in this world, and a lot of differences. But thank God I had parents who taught us that the folks were as good as the people, and that we didn't really have to depend on anybody except ourselves and God to achieve. And we really didn't have to really kiss up to anybody to get anything. My dad also told us, if you can't find a job, make a job. So all 7 of us siblings found a way to make our own living. My sister, my brother, and I were beauticians and barbers, and one of them was a teacher, and Aziz's grandmother, of course, worked in the government. My oldest brother was what we used to call a handyman. So we all, even during the Depression years, were able to make a living without having to depend on handouts from the government or anybody else. We worked and really helped other people in the community who didn't really have a garden and hogs and so forth as my dad had. So,
So you see,
it's been a challenge. I know, and the other thing is that, we couldn't use the word can't. When we were growing up, my dad would say, can't, what do you mean can't? That can't means can try. So you don't know whether you can do something or not until you tried it. So we tried a lot of things. So anyway.
So you see a little bit already where I get some of my mindsets from. Not try, make your own job. If you can't find one, make your own.
That's right.
These some of the things. So let's expand on that, Aunt Reba. So let's talk a little about your background. I know you're an educator, you're a counselor, all the different things. Explain to the audience a little bit about some of the things you've done over the years.
Well, I have a bachelor's degree in home economics with a minor in science. I had to go to high school in 2 different places before I could graduate from high school and be ready to go to college, because at the time I came along, there was only one high school in the entire state of Delaware for Black students. And so we either had to leave home and go to that one high school or go out of state and board with family. But there was a school in Dover that went to the 10th grade, and my school in Milford went to the 9th grade. So 2 of my classmates and I rented a room in Dover and went to the 10th grade completely on our own. The lady gave us cooking privileges in a room, so we were free to do whatever. And then I went to 10th, 11th, and 12th grade at Delaware State College High School, which was a laboratory high school that they used to train their teachers. Graduated as a salutatorian in my class, and got one job. My first teaching job was in South Carolina. My salary was $1,000 a year. not a month, a year. My monthly salary was $106 and my gross was $101.76. And I remember that because I only stayed there 1 year. I just told the principal I couldn't stay down there because I could make more money in Delaware doing hair, waiting tables and selling cookware and doing other things that I had been doing than staying down there waiting, teaching for $1,000. I couldn't even buy a car because I didn't make enough money down there. So I came back home and my husband and I sold cookware, and we used to take students overseas on study tours. So when we finally got our car in 1952, we started driving and drove in all 48 of the 50 states and cruised to the other two. And then we used to take students overseas on study tours every other year to take them to Europe. And the other years we'd bring the European students to the United States and teach them something about the cultures here. So, you have a lot of experiences as long as you just open your brain and try things. And so then when the schools were integrated, I applied for a job as a home economics teacher, but they had already promised it to somebody else. But somehow I made an impression on the people, the principal and the superintendent. And so they offered me a job as a guidance counselor because they were having all these Black students enter the white school and they didn't know really what they were going to do with these Black girls. And so without having had a guidance counselor or having any training in counseling, I said, yes, I'll take the job. And that summer I took 9 hours in counseling so I could certify, and then went on and got my master's in counseling and PhD in counseling. So my husband and I both did the same thing. Actually, my husband got a bachelor's, a master's, and a PhD without a high school diploma, but that's another first story. But I don't even know whether you even knew that or not, did you, Aziz? But at any rate, you can do what you want to do if you really want to do it badly enough. And if you don't say I can't, but you can try to do a lot of things. And I'm now, retired since I was 62, so I'm doing fine. My husband died 2 days before my 90th birthday, so I'm adjusting for 7 years, almost 8 years without my husband. So anything else you want me to tell him, Aziz? Is that enough?
We're gonna get into more of that. And as you can see, she's accomplished quite a bit in her life, in the short 98 years that she's been around, and I'm gonna let her get more into that. As far as Delaware, she's very, very well known throughout the state. She's friends with some of the higher ups in Delaware, the president of the United States, because he's from Delaware. And I want to talk a little bit about that. Also about some of the struggles achieving all the things you achieved, because I know we'll get into a little more later that I know you have many properties. You guys manage many properties and helped a lot of people along the way. So can we talk a little bit about those things as well?
Well, yes. When I got the job in Delaware, we were living in Wilmington at the time, and we were renting. We just had a little apartment at that time, but our goal was to own a house. And because my dad had also owned houses and my grandparents owned farms. And so it was in the family that you're supposed to own your own property and you don't have to be beholden to people to do it. And so I got a job teaching in Georgetown, which was actually in the lower county in the state while we were still living in Wilmington. And that was quite a distance to commute. So we decided to buy a house here in Dover. And so that's what we did. There was the principal of the school here, Black school here in Dover, had a farm, and he could not find any decent houses for his teachers. And so he converted part of the farm into Northwest Dover Heights, which is where we live now. And we've lived here for about 57 years. So, and then as places became available, we bought rental properties as well to help supplement our income.
And how many properties have you had over the years?
Actually, we've had three. Yeah, three, because we were doing other things as well. So we didn't want to get ourselves bogged down into doing one thing when we were already doing something. This was just like a supplement for us, but we have helped other people do some of the same kinds of things that we have done in terms of buying property and how they could go about financing without using all their income to buy a house. As a matter of fact, the two houses that we bought, really, one of them was $10,000 and one of them was $12,000. That's not much money for a rental house, for a house that you can rent, but it has helped to supplement our income over these years. So.
When you hear about those prices, our audience is gonna be like, "What? That's
well,
crazy."
well, I told you what my salary was. So, as a matter of fact, when I started teaching in Delaware, they had a dual teaching salary for Black teachers and white teachers. The beginning salary for a Black teacher who had just graduated or had just a bachelor's degree with no experience was $2,800 a year. For white teachers, the beginning salary was $3,200. So even now, my retirement and Social Security are all negatively impacted by the fact that they had the dual salary here. But that was another part of that segregated system that we were living in. So.
Wow, still to that day, they never adjusted that or anything.
No, not yet. I'm still trying to work on that one. Try to see if I can get
Okay.
some supplemental income for that.
I know if anybody can, you can. That's for sure.
Well, I don't know.
That's
I go to the top and work down. So.
there you go. That's how they do it.
and
Don't
you
waste your time.
and you mentioned that in Delaware it's small. We only have 3 counties here. So if you are doing anything at all, you will know people. And I was the guidance counselor for the mayor of the city of Dover, where we live. He declared that I'm responsible for him being successful, and I knew the father of our governor before I knew the governor. And of course, you mentioned that I know the president of the United States. His wife and I were inducted into the Delaware Women's Hall of Fame together. So I know her and him, as well as their daughter. So, it's a small community. So, but if you do things, you'll know something. And my thing is, even if you don't know the people personally, if you need their help, that's what they're there for. They've been elected to help us to achieve whatever we need to achieve. And so that's my philosophy. And my thing is also, you have not because you ask not, and I don't have any problems asking.
That's a nugget right there. You guys got to know. You got to ask. If you want something, you got to ask. You got to go after it. That's the only way you're going to get it. And I know coming from you, as far as being able to make things change or knowing people that can make things change, I know you've done a lot as far as that's concerned. You were heavily in the NAACP for a long time.
Yeah, I still am I've got life membership in NAACP, so yeah.
Okay. Care to share some of those stories with us? I've heard a lot, so many. So any one of you that stands out to you?
Um, I don't know. I've just done whatever I could. I've done a lot of speaking for the NAACP banquets and encouraging people to become involved with issues. And certainly I worked hard to get the schools integrated in the state of Delaware. And I just do what I can do. That's all. I'll send my resume. If you had told me this, I could have sent my resume. You could have had that in front of me.
We're just talking. Like I said, I've heard so many stories over the years that I'm just sharing with everybody else.
Yeah.
I know impactful, like I said, as far as segregation and things like that, and just some of the struggles that you all had to go through in Delaware, just to get the basic,
Yeah.
equality that everybody else had.
Yeah. Well, you just have to have confidence in yourself, and you don't depend on somebody else to do for you what you can do for yourself. So
You guys are going to hear that a lot. See, that's you don't government, parents, whatever it is, if you can do it yourself, make that attempt to do it yourself before you ask somebody else.
that's right.
And that's how you achieve success. It doesn't matter what the obstacles are. Like Reba was saying, she had a lot of segregation. Now we face some of those things. We face hardships as far as capital is concerned, inflation, so on and so forth. But you just got to keep going. You got to keep going, keep pushing, and keep fighting for what you know. Reba, I want to ask you some of the history of our family. I know you share a lot about with us, and you study a lot about that. Can you share a little history of the Ross family in Delaware?
Yeah, well, I was fortunate enough to know both sets of my grandparents, which were your great grandparents, and so actually your great great grandparents, as a matter of fact, right? Yeah. And I know also, having studied them, that and talked about them and that my mother's people, the Scots, were free. And I know that they came from a little country in West Africa. I just found that out in some of my research. Um, Libya, it's a little country right on the coast of Africa, the western coast. And my dad's people were slaves, and they lived over in Maryland, in the county that was next to Delaware. It was not even, it was a part of Delaware actually for a while until the Mason and Dixie line was established. And they were slaves, but one of the benefits of that came with um, my dad's people were Rosses, and we found out that actually we were related to Harriet Ross Tubman, who was the person who helped to free the slaves, the Underground Railroad and all that. I'm sure you know all about that. But when my grandparents told us about it, my dad and all, they didn't tell us how we were related. But when I started doing the genealogy of the family, I actually found the connection between the two families and documented that we are indeed related to Harriet Ross Tubman. And as a matter of fact, I was made a queen mother from the same village in Ghana, Ethiopia, Ghana, where Harriet's grandmother had come from as a slave to the United States. And I had visited that couple times, 3 times, I guess. So, and that's another thing too. I didn't tell you about my visits to Africa and all, but
So many stories, so many stories. So,
yeah.
yeah. So, and that was, you given us a whole book last time I was there a few years back about the whole history of Ross's in Delaware. Some of that was included in there.
Right.
I know we own land down there that wasn't common for our community back in those days. Can you talk a little bit about that as well?
Well, we own land. So many people depended on somebody else to provide for them, and they, were slaves, and some of them just had a house. They really didn't think they could achieve because a lot of them didn't have the education that they needed to follow through. So, fortunately, in our family, all of us have education beyond high school or above. My one other brother and I have master's degrees, Ambrose, and your grandmother had a associate degree and wanted her bachelor's and master's, but she had children that kind of kept her from doing everything she really wanted to do. But we've just always been told that you can make a living for yourself and you can do what you need to do, and you don't have to, don't let anything stop you, if as long as it's the right thing to do and you can do it. So that's what we do. And as far as our family is concerned, we still have a good relationship with our family, which is not true with a lot of families. A lot of families think because one or the other has a degree or has achieved in a different way that they have somehow alienated the rest of them. That's not true in our family. A lot of my nieces, nephews didn't even know that I had a PhD or master's degree, because we don't make any big to do over what we have. We just share whatever it is. And even now I'm working with some families and sharing, and I gave a speech at an organization coming up in next week on how to find your genealogy and who you are and all of that. So, whatever I can teach or help with other people with, that's what I do. And
We'll have to have another episode to help us with that one. That would be a whole episode in itself. Help people find their who they are. You got to know who you are to know where you're going.
That's right. Everybody is somebody, and none of us created ourselves. So, somebody created us, but then how we achieve is up to us. So,
absolutely, absolutely. So, you guys are hearing it, like I said, from some of the history that I've come from, and have you heard a lot of times, you got to make your own way. You got to make your own way. And with my Aunt Reba, she hasn't shared a lot with us, and we'll have her back on. But there's been a lot of struggles and obstacles that they had to overcome just to get where they were wanting to get in. Education was not as easy as it is now, just to walk into the, apply, and they had to go some struggles to get through their education. Aunt Reba, talk a little bit about your education, things you had to go through just to achieve the common education everybody else was getting.
Well, as I said, our school in locally in Milford only went to the ninth grade. And there was only one college in the one high school in the entire state and one black college in the entire state. And so a lot of the people who lived in the two lower counties only got the education that was offered in their own communities because their families could not afford to send them out away from home in order to get an education. But my parents believed in an education. My mother had graduated from Delaware State College High School in 1925. And so we knew that education was available, and that's the way that you had to achieve. But it was difficult. As I said, when I was 15 years old, going into the 10th grade, two of my roommates and I rented a room here in Dover, and we were on our own, cooked for ourselves, did what we wanted to do in order to get a 10th grade education. In 11th and 12th grade, I went to Delaware State College High School. It was a boarding school on campus, and the restrictions were so much different than I had experienced at home and in the 10th grade, but I wanted an education, so I abided by the rules and regulations because I was not about to get sent home or expelled or something because I had done something stupid. So, and then of course, when I went to the University of Delaware in 1952, they had just opened to Black students in 1950. And so it was really very difficult. As a matter of fact, the first classes I took there were in 1952. And there was another Black woman and I in the class together in home economics classes. And the white teachers wouldn't even talk to us. As a matter of fact, there was one teacher, because sometimes we would take our lunch and eat in the home ec department. And there was one teacher who said, I just can't eat with niggas. I said, well, I guess you'll have to move someplace else because I'm not going anywhere. And so she got up and moved her plate over to another table. One of the teachers who was in that same class eventually got a job at the University of Delaware in the home ec department and became my advisor when I was working on my master's in home economics. And she told me no matter what I did, I couldn't get anything more than a B from her. And I wanted to know why. What was that? Because I've been working hard. I was not the stupidest person in the world. And so she said, because I had made A's in the two classes we had in 52, and she had only made B's. Well, she and her friends were socializing. They weren't doing their work like Minnie Winder and I were doing. But, and then when I got the job as a counselor and I had to get certified with that, she told me that I was deserting the field. And even though I had finished all the requirements for my master's in home economics, she would not present it for me to get my degree, master's degree in home economics, because she said I had deserted the field by going into guidance. Well, that meant I was going to lose all my credits that I had earned toward my degree in home economics, and they would only pay you for your degree that you got, not the extra credits. Well, I went to the Department of Certification and talked to the woman who was in charge there, told her what the situation was, and I just didn't think it was fair that I was going to lose all those credits in order to get a master's in guidance, simply because this woman wouldn't give me my master's in home economics. And she later said she didn't think it was fair either. They were going to have a departmental meeting that afternoon. So she'll take my case before. So they changed the rule. And when I got my master's in guidance, I got my master's plus 30 at the same time. So I got a double salary increase and changed the law for everybody else in the state of Delaware who came behind me. So, yeah.
Wow, that's just taking what they give you, right?
I mean, that's why you're supposed to speak up when you know something is wrong. You're supposed to speak up about it, and I don't mean argue about it. I mean, but have the evidence and information to support your position, and that's what I try to do.
Yeah, and that's what we got to do more of. That's, like you said, not just argue, but you got to have some facts and some, figures and all that type of stuff to go along with what you're saying, not just be loud, loud and wrong, as they say. You got to have some.
Well,
some
you can fight, yeah, you can fight with your fists, but I find it's easier to fight with my mouth. So,
yeah, most times you get more done, and the mouth is actually more powerful than the fist.
Well,
You
I
can
don't
reach
get
more
hurt
people.
I don't get hurt that much that way, but I did learn how to fight, when I was a kid, so I don't think I've forgotten everything that I need, but I just don't use it. I use my intellect rather than my physical stuff for that. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that's, again, that's what we learn. Communication. Communication is very key. We talk about a lot about that.
Right.
Communication, especially in the community. We may talk a certain way when we're around our boys in the hood, but when you're outside of that, you got to have a certain persona about yourself, being able to communicate with whoever you are. And that's something we got to teach our youth.
That's right. That's right.
So, you still doing some things? I know you speak at colleges and things like that. You still doing some things? I know you just said you have a coming up here recently.
Yeah, I'm the vice chair of the Delaware Heritage Commission, and so I do a lot of have meetings for that and preserving the culture and everything, and helping to inform people about the history and what's going on in the state and the country as well. Um, I'm going to be in a meeting to talk about the Declaration of Independence, and that's going to be next week. And so my calendar is full with helping people do stuff and sharing how they can do some of the same kinds of things that my husband and I have done together in terms of finding out how they can do something instead of just sitting around complaining about what they don't have and can't do.
Yeah, and that's the theme today. As you see, I'll remind you of her age again. She said she's working on 98, and she's still out there doing things, being active, fighting for people that maybe can't fight for themselves or for something she sees wrong. So it's never too late. You
That's right.
always have that.
And I'm still driving. I might even drive out to Texas one of these days soon, but I'm in a hoop.
I keep telling you, don't make that. It's a long drive by yourself.
Well, I don't know. It's a little bit cheaper to ride the plane than it is to drive, because I'd have to make a couple of stops overnight and all that. So
yeah, a little dangerous too.
yeah,
as you see, she's an amazing woman. And you guys haven't heard half of the stuff that I've heard over the years. And you better believe Ross is, she says she fights with her mouth now, and that's something that we are known for as being fighters. We don't just take things; we stand up, and that's through all of our lineage. Reba just happens to be the last one.
Yeah.
That share that information with us.
Well, we have a family reunion the first weekend in August, and that's been something that has been going on in the Ross family since before I was born. And I've been going ever since I can remember. And I remember one time we were at the family reunion, and my Grandpa Ross said something, they're always talking about those damn Rosses this, those damn Rosses that. They can't do anything with those damn Rosses. But he said they do precious little without us. So I've always taken that as kind of, you're supposed to use who you are to do something to help other people. So
that's right. That's right. Each one teach one.
Yep.
Bring up the nut. Mm-hmm. I know, being that she's a counselor, she works with a lot of youth still to this day, and in the past, helping them realize those things.
Yeah.
So like I said, I've gotten so much, just in the short times that I do go and visit. Now that I'm in Texas, it's a little harder to get out there, but I just like to sit around and talk. And I remember back in the years where because she's traveled all over the world, Africa, Europe, and all these types of things. When you go into her house, she's got things from all over the world. So you're, as a kid, you want to run around and jump, and your parents tell you before you get in there, sit still, mind your manners, so you don't break anything. And it's almost like a museum when you walk into her house.
It's cluttered. I agree.
Cluttered. It's artifacts, pictures of her with the president and governors and all type of stuff. It's amazing. It's definitely amazing.
Yeah.
And definitely want to have you on some more times in the future to kind of talk, more in detail, education and things like that.
Yeah.
So, let's see, what should we leave them with? One good story that I think it was a while back. You were telling me a story about a family that came to you and asked you what should they do about reparations.
Oh yeah. You want me to share that one?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Well, I told you that everybody wants me to talk because I run my mouth so much, But anyway, somebody had recommended me to this professor in a school up in Pennsylvania, and he called and wanted to know if I could help him with reparations because his family had owned slaves and they wanted to, I guess they were beginning to feel guilty about it. That's what kind of he said. So they invited me to their family reunion, and I asked him when we were talking how much money they had because, I said, I don't think you have enough money to pay reparations for what your ancestors did to the ancestors that you had as slaves. And so as we talked, they agreed that not, but they just don't have that kind of money because I talked to them how one generation after the other would be eligible if you were looking for reparations. But I did suggest that maybe they wanted to use their money to support the university, Delaware State University, which is the Black university here in Delaware, or in some way provide scholarships or some help for Black students or Black people. And while it wouldn't be the reparations that like you're giving them $500 or 40 acres of land to a family because your family has slaves, that's not going to cut it. It wouldn't cut it with me, and they just don't have enough money to pay for the fact that my ancestors on the Ross side were slaves and were mistreated. I never heard of any of them actually talk about being beaten or anything, but I do know that I have been over in the area where they lived and have seen some of the area that they live and seen some of the slave quarters. And there's absolutely no way in the world that you would have somebody who's you respected and loved live in those kinds of conditions. And you never paid them what it was worth. You didn't pay them anything at all except to give them some scraps of the meal that was left over. But anyway, that's another whole story. That's that's how it is. I mean, I just do what I can do to try to help as many people as I can. And I've gotten 2 or 3 kind of meetings with the same family that they've actually, one of the fellows in the family who was living in France, they came over for their family reunion, and so I helped them to organize so that they could actually decide as a family what they really wanted to do to help reparations, I guess that's the way of putting it. So
They decide anything? What did they decide?
they haven't called me back to another family reunion, but I do know they have not paid out any money to the slave descendants of the slaves. So I guess I don't know. I guess they're still working on something that they can do with some contributions from all the family members rather than just doing a little pittance thing. So
yeah, something don't mean nothing.
Yeah.
Say you did it, right?
Money doesn't, $50, that wouldn't even take buy groceries for most families, and a loaf of bread's over $5 in some areas now, dozen eggs, $4.99. I mean, how are you going to give enough money to make the difference for enslaving a family for generations?
Yeah.
You have to be a multi-millionaire to do that and want to give away some of it.
Yep. So most times that's not going to happen. But
No,
like you said,
it's
you
not
can.
going to happen. Some people think that they give you, well, they don't even want to give you a decent salary, but they think if they give you a dollar bill or $100 bill, that's going to be it. Well, maybe for some people, fine, but if that's all you have to give for me as a descendant of slaves, keep it and do something else with it. So
Exactly. So I when I heard that story, I just thought it was interesting. I thought I wanted you to share it, but
okay,
it's
well, I'll check with them and see what they're doing and where they stand with it.
okay. We can know for next.
Uh,
I know you're gonna lead them in the right direction. You're gonna make sure that they put it to good use, whatever they want to do with it.
if they follow through with my suggestions, I mean, it's not going to be just to give out $100 or $50 or whatever to a family member just because your family had them as slaves. That just doesn't cut it with me, But there again, when you go back into your history, back in ancient history, beyond the Bible, people were having slaves that just did not keep them in the same way that the Americans did, and it's been even in, as I say, if you read your Bible, they talk about slaves and who had them and all that stuff, but that doesn't make it right.
Yeah. And like you said, some slaves were treated differently than others.
Yeah.
Which is a huge thing that we can talk about also another whole another episode, the effects of slavery on our community.
Yeah.
And We can go on and on forever, but I just want to bring you on, just share a little bit with you and then or about you, and
Well,
then
didn't
have
I
you
ever
on in
tell
the
you
future.
that I saw a man getting whipped at a whipping post here in Delaware?
Oh, you want to share that story? No, you never told me that.
I didn't tell you that one? No. Okay. Well, my dad used to, sell, collect junk and stuff and bring it up here to sell, whatever. And he would bring us here to Dover, and we happened to be going by the the, the old prison here in Dover, and the whipping post was right in the center of the entrance. And I was, I think, 8 or 9 years old at that time, and this crowd of people had gathered to see this man get whipped, and so I got to see it. And 2 years ago, then I met with folks and we decided to move all the whipping posts that were still visible off property and put them in museums or do something, get them out of the public public view. So they did that. So
They were still there. They were still there.
the last one was in Georgetown. It was in the center of Georgetown Circle. And so
Mm.
I went down and took some pictures of it and talked about it and told what it represented and where they needed to put it into a museum rather than. And so it is now in a museum in Alabama, a museum that's owned and by a Black person who used to live here in Delaware, was born here in Delaware. So, but anyway,
That's the one that started that slave museum, right? Is that the same person?
that started what?
Didn't he start a slave museum? The gentleman that you're talking about?
Yeah, yeah,
Then he
that's
started.
one. Yeah, the same one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and he's done a lot. I didn't know he was from Delaware originally.
Yeah, it was Milton, Delaware. Hmm.
Okay, that's what's up. Good
His
stuff.
sister still lives here, and then he has a brother who lives in Philadelphia area. So
Okay. So, yeah, I know a lot of people know about that museum, but it's something newer that he put together for the last few years
I
that
think
got a lot
everybody
of
else
people.
go see it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I haven't went to see it yet, but
yeah,
I've heard a lot of good things about it.
yeah.
I've talked to some people that did go see. I said small world. Her reaches a long way. Long
There's not, you don't have a one other person on here, do you? But you're
Yeah,
recording.
the other person,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
just our editor. It's just me talking, just me and you talking.
Okay.
I won't keep you too much.
That's all
I know
right.
you got things to do.
Yeah.
I know you're busy all the time, but like I said, I did want to bring you have you on again. We'll set some other stuff up and we'll talk
Okay.
about specific things that can help, especially when we're talking about counseling and education that can help some of our listeners, because that's still a big part of what we do. Not everybody can be a business owner, although you should have the mindset that you can be, but not everybody will be, you know.
Well, everybody is if you have a family, because a family is a business.
That's
And
true.
you have to earn money, you have to spend money, and you have to be sure you spend it for and save money. So, no matter how much you make, you're supposed to save some of it. Um, and that's a business. But a lot of people don't look at it in that way. But um, and rearing children, you can rear them or you can let them grow up on their own. Uh, that's not going to be too good, but anyway, you're supposed to teach
So
them.
that, yeah, those have to share, yeah, 'cause from the wisdom from before that we may not always have at this point, uh, you know, as far as that's concerned, taking care of your family, things on and so forth. Like you said, we're all entrepreneurs, we're all salesmen in some way or another.
Hmm. Yep.
So,
I mean, I've
but
enjoyed my
again, we
life. I
thank
mean,
you.
I've enjoyed it even when I was a young kid going on the dump and collecting bottles and rags and things to sell because of picking berries, strawberries and blackberries and selling them in the street for 10 cents a quart so I could buy a pair of shoes, those kind of things. But, you know, life is what it is and it helps to make you who you are.
That's it. That's it. And you see that, it's lots of things that she's saying is she earned whatever she got, even
That's
as a
right.
kid. I think some nowadays we give our kids too much, and thinking that we're giving them a better life, but we're not giving them the work ethic. We're not giving them the grit to show how they can go and get it themselves, and so
Right.
that they're always looking for us to give it to them.
Hmm. Yep.
But like I said, we'll get more into that. We appreciate you having you on, and we'll get into maybe some weeks down the road. We'll have some specific topics. Either I can suggest some, you could some that are on your mind.
All
Again, we
right.
just want to help will help either whether it's bearing, the youth, guiding the youth, leading our community to invest more, start more businesses, get out and do more things, be more active.
Well, thank you for having me. I didn't know what you were going to talk about, but I said, whatever it is, it'll come out one way or the other.
Like you said, you know how to use your words well. So I know it was a problem on that part of it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evening. We'll talk soon.
All right. Thank you. And what's the other fellow's name?
Cameron.
Huh?
Cameron,
hi, Camden. How are you?
Doing good. It was a pleasure.
Can I see your picture?
Yeah.
So when I see you next time, I'll know who you are.
Let me see. Hold on.
Okay, that's all right. I'll see you. I'll meet you.
Why won't my camera work?
I'll tell you, we had that storm out here recently.
I know everything. I was worried about you folks, and I prayed for you all so that you'd be safe. So,
yeah, a lot of us just now getting power. We didn't have power for several days, and the internet's not working very good.
All right.
So, we'll get you next time, Cameron. You might have some technical difficulty.
Okay. What is the house that the Ross built? That's your title now for what we're doing? Or
I think I sent you a book. I wrote a book, The House That Ross Built, talking about, some of the things that I went through building real estate business.
And so now how come I don't have a copy of that book then?
Oh, I sent it to you couple times last time I was there. I'll send it again.
Yeah,
it was a digital copy.
Okay. I must have gotten lost in the transaction.
It was a digital copy. It was because I have an audio book. I mean a digital copy as well as a physical copy. So I'll send you the digital copy. I'll send it to your email.
Okay.
And then so from that and the podcast, The House That Ross Built, which again we're helping people, learn how to build their own house.
Well, that's where you got it from your grandpa, because he built the house we had on Druid Avenue.
Where started from, like you're the last one that can share that information with everybody. So I like to hold on to that and bring you on there with others as well, because it's definitely a blessing. We appreciate you.
Well, thank you.
All right, so we'll see.
I'm thankful for being here, and I thank you for thinking about me.
All
right.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Be good to each other. Give my love to everybody. Okay.
All right, I will.
All right.